Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming. What I think today, for me, is really concerning that I literally have no linear or rememberable imagination of time anymore. And I don't know if that happened for you or you perceive it, but I think through COVID, there's something that used to be very clear as an idea. Oh, I did something last Tuesday, or I do something tomorrow, or I did something 2 years ago or 3 years ago, seems to be incredibly unclear, and it seems to be like a wobbly mass of when did actually something happen. And I think I wasn't the smartest person in COVID because I had just relocated into like an empty warehouse without a window. So I had no day night. It was just like a space. And I think that didn't help. My very dear friend, she's an artist, her name is Patty. She basically said we all suffered from COVID. What does it mean we all suffered from COVID? It means that we all had our life be intervened, be inconvened, and had some consequences in our life. And as she continues, she basically says it's important to understand that we all have a crack. We're all like a cracked egg. In German, I would say perhaps a Sprung in the Schüssel, but I don't know if that's actually something anybody could understand what it means. So I prepared something today which is about unbearable slowness. And I show you some very, very short video clips. I think the shortest is only like 10 minutes or so. So I start with the first one. Can we have this loud? Is there sound actually? That's a clip from 1975. So as I mentioned, I'm not showing you the next 3 hours. But for me, it was always really, really an intriguing question for an artist. What actually do you do if you when you go to the studio? So when you make a drawing, when you make like something like a sculpture, you work hours and hours and hours and hours as an artist on making something out of your lifetime into a body of work, into an object. So here, what Marina did is basically she is shouting, screaming, until the moment she's losing her voice. So it's a self-experiment, it's a duration experiment, but you can try it at home. It's like you can be the artist, scream until you lose your voice, or you can do the next one. Mr. Boda, perhaps you can try this. I'll try it too. Freeing the Body. It's a very interesting performance from 1975 from Marina. So what Marina did is she would dance to the drum until complete exhaustion. And you know, with Marina, this could be like 5 hours, it could be like 9 hours. When she performed at MoMA, the longest duration she did in one role was actually 11 hours. But I felt the unsurmountable amount of time, as time is a heavy object like concrete that you try to move, or you try to get out of, or you try to get through. So I'm not showing you the remaining 11 hours. But I go to this work. That's a very famous one Marina did with Ula in 1977. So just imagine you love a person, perhaps you love a person, and you're breathing in and breathing out and breathing in and breathing out. So the oxygen gets lower and lower. So you have less oxygen after a minute. And after a couple of minutes, you actually faint. because the oxygen reduces. So what you see here, what Ulay and Hsieh did, were breathing in and breathing out until one of them fainted. So also whenever they did the performance, it's a little bit of competition, who is fainting first. Night Sea Crossing was a work that Hsieh and Ulay did, and they did it for 90 days. And they basically sat across from each other here in Sydney, here at Documenta, where they sat for 7 days. Here they sat in Toronto, or here at the Kunstakademie in Düsseldorf. And when we did Marina's exhibition in New York, the idea was the artist is present. I don't know if you remember when you were children, you got an invitation card, then it was like Joseph Beuys, and it would say, the artist is present, or Günter Oecker, the artist is present. So what Marina wanted to do, like Joseph Beuys did at Documenta 7, she wanted to be there the full 100 days, but not at Documenta, but at the Museum of Modern Art. So what we did is we looked at the Night Sea Crossing performance, and Marina and Ulay famously split after they walked the Chinese Wall. They spent 3 months, one started the Chinese Wall on one side, the other one on the other, and they met in the middle after 3 months, and they never spoke again until this performance. So think about the unbearable slowness of time. Here, we thought, because Marina split with Ulay, we thought she would sit the 3 months alone at MoMA. So when we installed the pieces for the museum, we actually thought Marina would be here, and this chair would always be empty, and we would make a square out of light so that people would know they are not allowed to enter her private space. Here she would sit, this would be empty, and there would be a table, like in the Night Sea Crossing. But actually, she never sat there alone. There was a line around the building. People waited for 2 days to get a seat to sit with her. And one person actually arrived in the morning, like when we started at 9:30 early, and the person sat there the whole day. So there was no other person, the unbearable slowness of being, that could actually join. And here, a very famous encounter of two art world slow giants happens. This is Tehching Hsieh, the one-year artist, who sat with Marina. He didn't wait in line. I walked him in. I was unfair enough to do this. And for Marina, this unbearable slowness of Tehching's work is actually the role model, and she always quotes him as a role model. What Tehching did in 1978 was that he put himself in a cage, and he did not read, he did not talk, he did not listen to the radio, he didn't write, he didn't make any art, he didn't know it was day or night, he didn't have a radio nor a TV. There was no device that would tell him what time it was and what time is passing. No daylight, no night, nothing. So he sat, and there was a little box under his bed so he wouldn't see that when a person comes and takes his waste and bring his food. So he sat in this cage from 1978 until 1979, thinking about our COVID quarantine. That's nothing. So here you see him. He had actually short hair when he started. He had long hair, 12 centimeters longer when he came out. So you see a little toilet, and you see his hair growing. But no productive, no entertaining, nothing, no other activity that could barely give you an indication of what time. I showed this at the Museum of Modern Art in 2009, and especially that was a year before Marina. People couldn't believe a person would do that. But I'll show you this. This is the first day in 1980. That's Tehching. He's from Taiwan, so he's Taiwan Chinese, and he was on a boat. He worked on a boat as a handyman, and in Boston, in the harbor, he jumped off the boat, big cargo ship, and he swam into Boston Harbor, so no papers, of course, how do you swim with papers, no immigration, and he was hiding for the first couple of years. And then he was part of the art world. He was very inspired by the Gutai group, and here he put himself in front of a time clock, like a factory time clock. So you go every full hour, he would put his time sheet into the time clock, and every full hour, the time clock would make a photograph of him. So every day, every hour, that's 24 photos a day. That's 365 days a year, makes 365, 24 pictures. And we have Alexander Kluge with you. We can speed that up to a movie. And he did. The beginning of the movie, he had no hair, and this is after the year. If you do this every hour, you cannot sleep longer than 50 minutes. You cannot go anywhere longer than 30 minutes because you have to be back in 30 minutes. So here is Tehching with the time clock piece, with a lawyer documenting exactly that he would not ever miss an hour. And I want to show you this. So this is the time sheet of a day. And I will show this at National Gallery in March, actually, because I think no better work for COVID, post-COVID than this. And I go for the next one, He won the Golden Lion for Lifetime Award 4 years ago in Venice. And I was fortunate enough to see him while he was in the show. That's him now. And here you see the time slips, the original documents. So it's really a document. Art is also a document of time.
Congratulations, Tehching.
Thank you.
He's not a man of lots of smiles. He did 1 year from 1981 to 1982 where he would not enter indoors. He wouldn't be in a car. He wouldn't be in an atrium. He wouldn't be in an entrance. He got arrested by the police, and he doesn't speak English well, still not so well. So just imagine how he tried to explain to the police he is a performance artist that cannot be in prison and cannot be in a police car. And he did. So he did not interrupt his year of performance. Always outdoors, always outdoors. And then this is Linda Montana from 83 to 84, another full year. He put a ribbon between Linda Montana and him. This is exactly 6 feet, 1.80 meters. And so they were connected by the average length of a person. And for the whole year, they could not split. So it's art is life and life is art. If you don't get divorced after that, you can survive forever. And then he did 1 year no art. He didn't talk about art, he didn't make art, he didn't write about art, he didn't exhibit art. And then he continued this for 13 years. And that's not public knowledge, it's just my idea. I think he built the crates for all the other objects. And I'm ending my unbearable slowness of being. When I was a kid, there was this novel, Milan Kundera, The Unbearable Lightness of Being. And then there was a beautiful movie made. And I never understood how being can be light. I had no idea. And I never had an idea how time could be too much, too long, until COVID. But I was always really obsessed by these artists. So Tehching started his artistic career as a post-Gutai artist by the shortest performance. He just jumped out of the window. That's it. And I think that's moment where there is an overlap of the here and now. Marina Abramović always says, I don't know, we know, you know artists, right? And so if you look on your feet and you're here and now, I think that was for Marina sitting in the atrium there for 100 days. She sat on this chair for 100 days, and then she said, oh, we didn't put armrests on the chairs. So it's a very practical thing, but think about 100 days. And this here and now, I think, is a very important moment as an artist to understand sculpture. A sculpture is here and now. It's your height, it's your weight, it's your time. And what Tehching did is he jumped out of the window and broke his leg. He was forever an artist. And with this, I leave. Bye.